evening, everyone. I'm Frank Novak, and this is Point of Reference. Tonight, we give you a brief introduction to each candidate running for office in the city of Haverhill, incumbent as well as newcomer, in an effort for you to get to know them a little better and help you to decide who to vote for on Election Day, November 7th. We're very proud that almost 100% of the candidates took us up on our invitation to help you become a more informed voter. Welcome, everyone. We're talking right now with the Chief Executive Officer of the City of Haverhill, Mayor James J. Fiorentini, running for re-election. Welcome to the program, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for having me, Frank. I appreciate it very much.
You know, the fact is you happen to be running unopposed in this election, as you have in some previous elections as well, but that doesn't mean that you wouldn't have something to say to the voters of the City of Haverhill for the November 7th election.
Thank you for inviting me, because voter confidence is something that can never be taken for granted. People ask me, why are you putting up signs? Why are you sending out mailings, emails? Why are you campaigning? And the answer is because you can never take the voters for granted. Confidence is something that has to be earned. You can't be just assumed.
You know, when you take a look at the number of terms that you have been in so far, you are finishing which term now?
Seventh.
Your seventh term, which has already broken a record a couple of terms back, is it not?
Yes.
You know, so you're at the present time.
Well, the record for mayor, there's lots of people that have served a lot longer than I have, Brian Dempsey being one of them.
But as mayor, I'm saying.
And mayor, yes.
But as mayor, okay. Do you see any compelling things that you'll be confronting as mayor in the upcoming season, in the upcoming term, that you haven't really experienced so far?
Well, the big thing that I want to tackle is improving education. I'm concerned about, although the dropout rate isn't nearly as bad as it's been portrayed, some of the numbers are wrong. The dropout rate is still higher than I want it to be. I'm very concerned about gangs in the city. I've started a gang task force. We're looking at new and innovative solutions. We'll be looking at some grants that we've never put in for and other grants that we've put in for that we're looking for expanded money on. And we're always looking at the budget, keep Haverhill affordable. And we're looking at growth versus no growth. What kind of community do we want to be?
Isn't it true that if we take into account of other 351 cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts, Haverhill is experiencing the largest growth ratio or percentage, perhaps more so than any other community in the state?
No, absolutely not. If you're talking about population growth.
No, I'm talking about basically on development, things of that type.
No. The Haverhill's population growth has been very, very modest. It's under 1%. It's nowhere near what it ought to be.
What should it be?
We should probably be growing at the rate of 1 or 2% a year, somewhere in that range. And we're not. I'm concerned about that. And we need to take a look at what kind of a community do we want to be. We want responsible growth. Of course, the primary thing we want is business growth. But you have to grow as a community. I grew up here, and many of the people watching grew up here. I remember when this was a dying shoe town, when the population was going backwards every year. The world population is skyrocketing, and we're going backwards. We never want to return to those days. You either go backwards, you stagnate, or you go forward in a responsible way, and that's what we need to do here.
To that issue of growth, as far as population growth and having people come in, specifically across the board, when people are looking to go ahead and move to a community, one of the major criteria that they happen to have, whether they have kids or not, is the school system.
Well, the number one criteria they have is affordability. Well, the number one criteria people have is affordability. I hear this over and over and over. Why'd you move here? About 75 or 80% of the people move here because of affordability. I talk to them, and it's really affordability plus. Because I say to them, there are more affordable communities. Some of them bordering us or right near us. Well, no, Haverhill's safer, and Haverhill has a beautiful downtown. Haverhill has nice sidewalks, and it looks nice. So that's the key factor. The second factor absolutely is public education. Now, we've made progress in public education. We have a beautiful new hunking school. We've put millions of dollars into all of our other schools. Every other school has seen improvement. We had, until they changed the standards and eliminated the levels, we had 5 level 1 schools in the state. Some of our neighboring communities didn't have any at all. So we've made progress, but I'm nowhere near satisfied. We need to do better in education. Superintendent Scully, who's done a great job, is retiring. So the key thing we'll be looking at next year is a replacement for him and improving public education.
One of the key factors, Mr. Mayor, when people are moving to a community, yes, is affordability, and also taking into account the desirability of the school system, because in many cases, it's from my own personal experience over the years, sometimes Haverhill is looked upon as a community to come to because it is affordable. It's where you get a start, but people then look to try to graduate from.
Well, that's always...
How do you look to keep them here rather than move on?
Well, you and I grew up here. That's always been the case, where people say, well, I'm going to start in Haverhill, and then I'm going to move to Andover and North. I'm going to make enough money, maybe I'll move to Newton someday, which, by the way, all those comparisons, Haverhill can't be compared to those really rich communities. But now, for the first time in my lifetime, I never thought I'd see it, we have people moving here from the wealthier communities. They love our downtown, at $200 million in new investment. They're moving here because of affordability in some of our projects, and we need to keep that up. That is what we want. We want a community that people are fighting to get into, not what we had when we were kids, a community that people are fighting to get out of. And that's what we need to do, we need to work hard on.
So that's already happening, and you're looking to accelerate or build upon that type of an idea, no?
I want this to be a great community that everyone is proud to live in and that other people are clamoring to get into. And that requires clean streets, safe streets, good schools. Those are the three things that I've worked on for years and years and years. Keep the city safe, make a beautiful, walkable city, and make sure the schools are great. One of the things we've worked on, when we talk to businesses, where do you want to go? They want to locate their business in a place where there's workers and where they themselves are proud to live. So we've fixed up our parks and playgrounds. We have millions of dollars in improvements in our parks and playgrounds. This is the kind of community that people want to live in, and that's what we need to keep doing.
When you look at the downtown area, in years past, there's been a large concentration based upon the historical district on Washington Street from Post Office Square to the railroad bridge. Now it seems as though now people are actually looking at the Merrimack Street area from the Post Office Square down to what we're looking at Harbor Place, where we're broadcasting from right now.
We have three great new developments coming in downtown. There is a development over where next to Dr. Tarani's building that's going to be absolutely great. Across the street from there, Sal Lapoli is putting in a great project, and the third phase of Harbor Place is coming in. So it's all coming together as we hoped for a little over a decade ago.
You know, do you think that are there any other things that are on the horizon that you can talk about? You know, as far as downtown development, I know that
yes.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of great projects coming in downtown. And downtown will be pretty much built out at the end of the next term. The Trugworth developments, the people that develop the area where Battlegrounds Cafe is, they've also bought the old Cafe El Forno, and assuming they get their permits and their tax credits from the state, they'll be redeveloping that. There'll be a restaurant on the first floor and condos up above. The vacant building on Essex Street that looks like a bomb hit it, the old granite structure, it's owned by the Chen family, and that's going to be redeveloped. They have all their approvals.
It's been stalled for a long time, though, no?
13 years.
Why is that?
They couldn't get their approval from the state, what's called their one-stop approval process. But this year we hit the jackpot. We got 4 projects approved. We got that one approved. We got the old Gerson Furniture project approved. We got the Essex Street project right across from Haverhill Housing Authority. Was Ted's Leather and I forget Gerson Furniture, the 2 on Essex Street. Oh, and the project up on West Lowell Ave for an expansion. So we hit the jackpot with the state this year.
Is there a limitation now for future development because of limitation of funds at all, or is that still ongoing if people are able to file their permits appropriately and have a positive project?
Well, there's no limit as far as funds. We don't give them any direct funding. That all comes from the state. But I think we need to look at what sort of community we want to be. I think what we want at this point, we've pretty much built up our downtown the way we planned it years ago. I think what we need to look at now is single-family housing development. This is what we want in our community, is the middle class coming back and staying here. We need to look at the area along the waterfront where we've rezoned in order to encourage the right kind of upscale development. We need to continue to look at that.
So if you're looking to encourage more residential construction or residential rehab and reconstruction.
The right kind.
What is the right kind, as far as we can define that? What would you say the right kind is?
At this point, single-family homes. We also need to do a better job of recruiting and attracting businesses. And we're working hard. We've got some new businesses we'll be announcing shortly. When I go around and talk to people, what they want is more jobs, and that's what we need to work hard on.
When you take a look at the number of industrial parks that we have, how filled are they?
They're very filled.
Does that suggest that there may be another industrial park on the horizon?
It suggests that we have to do something to expand our industrial capacity and to take another look at zoning in the industrial parks. We have a lot of uses that really aren't high-end uses in our industrial parks, and we need to take a look at that. What we want in our industrial parks is high-end jobs, like light-speed manufacturing, just by way of disclaimer, that's owned by a cousin of mine, Rich Bro. But that's what we want. We want companies like that are going to provide high-end manufacturing jobs. Southwick, 550 employees. I'm so proud that we were able to give them some incentives and bring them here. This is what we want. Not the low-end job, not the low-end places that are mostly storage and one or two jobs. They take up our valuable industrial space.
When we take a look at other issues that are confronting the city of Haverhill, and we're talking about budgetary considerations, in many cases, many of the people that we've talked to that are running for re-election to the city council, for example, talk about, because they have to approve the budget.
Yes.
But in many cases, they say, even though it's a strong mayor form of government that you happen to be at the helm of, they sometimes would wish that they'd get the budget in advance or get it earlier than they do. Is there any discussion on that, or will that change at all from what you've done in the past?
I hear the discussion. I watch the interviews. The council gets the budget months ahead of time. I meet with every single councilor individually and say, what would you like to see? What are your priorities? And some of them meet and some do not, and say, what would you like to see as priorities in the budget? And you can't give everybody everything they want, but I try to accommodate them, and that will continue. We had 2 workshops with the council last year, and our cooperation will continue.
As you go on, and this is going to be your 7th term?
Not all the budget can go to the police, though. That's my disagreement with the city council. Police are important. We've added about, I forget the exact number, 16 or 18 police in the budget, 15 to 18 police in the budget over the last 4 years. We have the most number of police probably ever, but at least since Prop 2.5. We've had a dramatic increase. They haven't all been hired, but when they're hired, we'll have 10 more police on the street than we did at time of budget last year. But your entire budget can't go to the police department. You also need to provide people with basic services like fixing their sidewalks and patching their roads. I think we need to do a better job at that. We need to improve our school system. We need to provide the basic services that a city provides. Can't just give everything to one department because it's politically popular.
Well, and that's why there's only so much money to go around, essentially, in short.
I think the number one thing that I need to do with the city council is to say, listen, there's only so much money. It's not Christmas every day. I'm not Santa Claus. And we have to keep our reserves up. Twice in my career, reserves have prevented small problems from becoming a catastrophe.
Such as?
The school department ran a $1.2 million deficit. When I took office, that would have been a catastrophe. There were no reserves of any type. We had $1.2 million in reserve. We put it in to plug the gap, and that was that. The second time is one of the governors, I think it was Governor Patrick, it might have been Governor Romney, cut our $2.4 million that we traditionally got from the state halfway through the season. And we were in very difficult shape, but we had adequate reserves. We took the money out of reserves. Without adequate reserves, a small problem becomes a crisis. And that's what we need to work hard on. The other thing I'm going to be working hard on is keeping taxes at a reasonable rate. You know, if you look around the state and you see the cities where there's a lot of anger, almost always it comes because of people getting an unexpectedly high tax bill. We need to work on that. We're going to have what may be, what's going to be a large surplus left over from last year called free cash. And I'm going to strongly recommend to the City Council that some of that money go back to the people who took it out of their pockets and gave it to us, the taxpayers of the city. It's their money. And unless we keep Haverhill affordable, we're going to kill the goose that laid the golden egg. We have a lot of great things going on here, but we need to keep our schools, our police, our roads, and affordability. Those things we need to keep.
In less than 2 minutes that we have left, I'd like you to be able to touch upon the issue because you are the head of the school committee.
I am.
Being the mayor of the city of Haverhill. Having said that, one of the interesting dynamics that comes in sometimes out of left field happens to be special education funding, which can be very frustrating because you don't count on it by being able to deal with it in advance. Sometimes situations can occur, in the middle of the school year. What do you do in a situation like that?
You expect the unexpected. As a lawyer, what I learned was that you have to have reasonably foreseeable things that you can take a look at. And I analogize it to a flood. In a flood, we're prepared. We have a flood wall. We have a team of people that goes out. And things that are reasonably foreseeable, we can deal with them. Now, if every dam upstream breaks, if an atomic bomb hits us, or some saboteur goes out and hits every dam, no, that's not reasonably foreseeable. In special education, it's reasonably foreseeable that there are going to be special ed costs, that people are going to move to your community, and you establish reserves for that. One of our reserves that isn't nearly high enough is our special ed reserve, and that has to be something that's in next year's budget.
Very good. Mr. Mayor, that'll have to be the last word. We appreciate you being here today to be able to address the voters, and we wish you the best of luck. I think you're going to come out on top on November 7th. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll be back in just a moment. I hope that this program has been a point of reference for you. And until next time, my name is Frank Novak, and thanks very much for watching. And remember to vote on November 7th.